Now, one of the books that I find myself recommending to a lot of people is Get Things Done by Dave Allen. And wonderfully, the Dave Allen Company have a podcast out called Get Things Done, which goes into it in a fair bit of detail. But I just wanted to give you, highlights for me about that book. And one of the key things I took out of it was, and Dave talks about, the brain makes a shitty office. And what he means by that is, this is not the place to store things. This is a thinking system that is the brain, and it's not a storage system. And so, what he is saying is, instead of trying to store things in the brain, you need to have systems where you store things elsewhere. And one of the examples he gives is that, to actually, if you need to remember to take something, then taping something to the front door that says you must take this in the morning, when your morning self comes and actually sees that, it will remember that it needs to take it. So you've actually built a system for yourself so that you don't need to remember. And he talks about really, a series of lists that allow you to stop trying to store that information up here and store it somewhere. He talks about actions a lot. And I guess really splits. It might seem like he's splitting hairs a little bit, but often when you write to-do lists, you write things like "send mum card," but that's the end result of that. The first action that needs to happen is to actually go and buy a card, or maybe you have a card and you need to write the card, or maybe you need to look up the address, or whatever it might be. And so he talks about making sure that your action is really an action. It's really the next thing I need to do on this basis, which to me is really powerful. And I guess with that in mind, the key thing I took out of it was that the brain will keep reminding you of things at really odd times. And so, I think one of the examples was, the brain won't tell you that you need lemonade when you're actually at the store. When you're coming back from the store, you go, "Oh, I need lemonade." And so what he suggests is that a lot of the times, a lot of your thinking is about open loops that haven't been resolved in terms of what the next action is. So if I'm thinking about that presentation that I need to do, why am I thinking about that presentation I need to do? Because I haven't thought through what the next step is. So the next action might be to create a list of the key topics I want to talk about. And then I don't need to think that. If I've got it scheduled at this time, I'm going to go through that skeleton of what I'm going to talk about, and I've got my next action defined, then I don't need that open loop. And I guess he talks about sort of quieting the mind around that, sort of taking that out of here and actually getting that on paper. And I guess a couple of other things. That's the main thing I wanted to talk about. A couple of other things that I liked was the idea that if it takes less than 2 minutes, then just do it, because it's going to be quicker than trying to file it in any sort of system. And I guess finally, the idea that we tend to drop systems or drop ways of doing things as things get more chaotic. And I guess the response to that is, well, that's when you need it the most. When you need it the most is when you have so much work that you don't know what's going on, that you're dropping things or forgetting things and your brain is tired. That's when you need to stop, organize yourself, get it out of your head, and work through in order what you need to do and those next actions. So that's my thought on Dave Allen's Get Things Done. I'll add a link into the podcast. There's a good episode 29, I think it is. I'll put it in the comments around where he gives an overview. I recommend you buy the book and give it a read, or go to your local library.